You refresh the page. Again. The notification hasn't changed. The silence hasn't broken. And somewhere beneath your ribs, there's a tightening, a low hum of anxiety that you can't quite name but absolutely recognize. You posted something. You said something. You revealed something. And now you're waiting for them to validate it, waiting for them to approve, waiting for the little dopamine hit of a like, a comment, a nod that says, yes, you are acceptable. You are enough. And in that waiting, you have become small. This isn't about vanity. This is about survival architecture. Somewhere along the way, you wired your nervous system to believe that their opinion is the difference between safety and exile, that their approval is oxygen, that their criticism is annihilation. So you curate, you edit, you present the version of yourself most likely to be accepted, and you call this being social. But here's the mechanism you haven't seen. Every time you hand them the power to determine your worth, you are building a prison whose bars are made of their voices. You are creating a life where you cannot move, speak, or exist without first checking the weather of their mood, where your internal state is dictated by external validation, where you are never truly free because freedom requires not needing their permission. And the most dangerous part? You've convinced yourself this is connection, this is care, this is love. It is none of those things. It is dependency. And dependency, no matter how it's dressed, is a cage. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who commanded legions and governed an empire, understood this battlefield better than most. He wrote in his private journals, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Not charm, not influence, not the ability to make them like you. Strength. The strength that comes from building what the Stoics called the Inner Citadel, a fortress of self so impenetrable that their praise cannot inflate you and their criticism cannot destroy you. A place where you exist independent of their opinion, not in reaction to it. This is the art of the cold soul. Not cold as in cruel, cold as in unmoved, unreachable, sovereign. In the next 20 minutes, we will not learn to manage your need for validation. We will learn to dismantle it entirely. We will examine why you built this prison, how it operates, and most importantly, how to construct something infinitely more powerful in its place. An identity that cannot be touched by the shifting winds of their judgment. By the end of this, you will understand that their opinion, whether glowing or scathing, is not just irrelevant. It is powerless. Let's start with the uncomfortable question. Why do you care? Not the surface answer, not because I'm human or because I want to be liked. Go deeper. What is the function of their opinion in your psychological economy? Here's what most people miss. The need for external validation is not a personality flaw. It's a survival strategy that outlived its usefulness. You were born into a world where approval literally meant survival. The infant who is rejected by the tribe dies. The child who is cast out starves. So you learned, at a level deeper than language, that acceptance equals life and rejection equals death. This was accurate, but you are no longer that child. Yet the wiring remains. And now, in a world where social rejection will not kill you, your nervous system still treats their disapproval like a mortal threat. Watch how this manifests. Someone criticizes your work. Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. Your thoughts spiral into catastrophe. This is not a proportional response to feedback. This is your amygdala believing you are about to be exiled from the tribe and left to die in the wilderness. Or the opposite. Someone praises you. Suddenly, you feel invincible. You feel real. And for the next few hours, you ride that high like a drug, because in that moment, their approval confirmed that you exist, that you matter, that you are safe. Both reactions reveal the same architecture. You have outsourced your sense of self to them. Your worth is not generated internally. It is assigned by the external world. You are a stock whose value is determined by the market of their opinion. And markets, as you know, are volatile. Today they love you. Tomorrow they're bored. Next week they're angry. And through all of it, you are tossed like a ship in a storm because you gave them the helm. This is the trap Marcus Aurelius spent his life escaping. Imagine you are the most powerful man in the known world. Armies obey your word. Senators compete for your favor. The empire bends to your will. And yet, if you are not careful, you are still a slave. A slave to their flattery. A slave to their ambition. A slave to their judgment. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. The pain is not the criticism. The pain is your belief that the criticism means something about your worth. The anxiety is not their silence. The anxiety is your belief that their silence is a verdict on your value. The wound is not what they said. The wound is your agreement with what they said. This is the revelation that changes everything. Their opinion is not the problem. Your need for it is. And that need, that architecture of dependence, can be dismantled. The Stoics had a term for the place where you are untouchable. They called it the Inner Citadel. Not a metaphor, a location, a fortress within your own mind where you retreat not out of fear, but out of sovereignty, where you govern yourself according to principles you choose, not reactions you inherit. Marcus Aurelius built his citadel in the midst of plague, war, and betrayal. He was surrounded by people who wanted things from him, who flattered him when it served them and betrayed him when it didn't, who praised him to his face and plotted against him in the shadows. And he learned something that most people never learn. If your peace depends on their behavior, you will never have peace. Because you cannot control them. You can influence, persuade, intimidate, charm, but you cannot control. Their thoughts are theirs. Their judgments are theirs. Their moods are theirs. The only thing you control, absolutely and completely, is your inner state. Your interpretation, your response, your values, your sense of self. This is the dichotomy of control, and it is the foundation of the inner citadel. Most people live their entire lives trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to manage how others see them, trying to engineer approval, trying to avoid criticism. And they are exhausted because this is an impossible task. The Stoic inverts this entirely. Stop trying to control their opinion. Start controlling your response to it. This is not resignation. This is not letting people walk all over you. This is the most radical form of power available to a human being. The power to be unshaken. When you build the inner citadel, something extraordinary happens. Their praise does not reach you, not because you reject it, but because you don't need it. It's pleasant, the way sunshine is pleasant, but your sense of self is not dependent on the weather. Their criticism does not wound you, not because you're arrogant, but because you have already evaluated yourself according to principles you chose, and their judgment is simply irrelevant to that evaluation. You become what Marcus called like the rock against which the waves continuously crash. The waves do not stop, the storms do not cease, but the rock does not move. This is the cold soul, not unfeeling, unmoved. And the construction of this fortress begins with 3 gates, 3 Stoic principles that, when practiced, make you immune to the tyranny of their opinion. The first gate of the Inner Citadel is clarity. Clarity about what belongs to you and what does not. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who began his life as a slave, taught that all of existence can be divided into 2 categories: things within your control and things outside your control. Within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your intentions, your character, your effort, your response. Outside your control, everything else. Their opinion of you, outside your control. Whether they like your work, outside your control. Whether they praise you or criticize you, respect you or dismiss you, remember you or forget you, outside your control. And here's the principle that most people resist with every fiber of their being. If it is outside your control, it should be outside your concern, not suppressed, not ignored through force of will, but genuinely, fundamentally irrelevant to your internal state. This is the first fortification, the first wall. Watch what happens when you violate this principle. You post something online. You did the work. You made the thing. You chose your words carefully. That part was within your control, and you executed it according to your standards. Then you wait for the response. And in that waiting, you have crossed into the territory of the uncontrollable. You have given your peace to a variable you cannot manage. And now you suffer, not because of what you did, but because you are trying to control what you cannot control. The Stoic approach is surgical. Do the work to your standard, then release attachment to the outcome. Not because you don't care about quality, but because your sense of competence is not determined by their reception. It is determined by whether you met your standard according to your principles. Marcus wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." He's not being cynical. He's being prepared. He's fortifying the gate by recognizing that their behavior, their judgment, their opinion is their domain, not his. His domain is how he responds, what he values, how he lives. And when you internalize this, when you truly absorb this division, something liberating happens. You stop performing. You stop editing yourself for the audience. You stop calculating every word for maximum approval. You stop living in the exhausting space of reaction management. You act according to your principles, and their response is simply information, not a verdict. This is the first gate, the first transformation. Their opinion is outside your control. Therefore, it is outside your concern. Here's the trap most people never see. They think the goal is to become immune to criticism while remaining open to praise. They want the armor that deflects the insults, but lets the compliments through. The Stoics would tell you this is impossible, because praise and criticism are two sides of the same coin. Both are forms of external judgment. Both are attempts by others to define you. Both are, ultimately, irrelevant to who you actually are. This is the second gate. Treat praise and criticism as equals. Both are noise. Both are distractions. Both are invitations to hand your self-concept to someone else. Marcus wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." Read that carefully. You claim to love yourself, yet you trust their judgment of you more than your own. Why? Because you have been conditioned to believe that external validation is more real than internal knowing, that the mirror of their reaction is more accurate than the mirror of your own reflection. This is the lie that the second gate dismantles. Watch what happens when someone praises you. You feel good, but beneath that good feeling is relief. Relief that you are acceptable. Relief that you performed correctly. Relief that, for now, you are safe from rejection. That relief reveals the dependency. You needed their approval to feel okay about yourself, which means your okayness is conditional, contingent on their shifting moods. Now watch what happens when someone criticizes you. You feel bad, but beneath that bad feeling is fear. Fear that they see something true. Fear that you are exposed. Fear that you are not, in fact, enough. That fear reveals the same dependency. Their disapproval threatens your sense of self because you built your sense of self on their validation in the first place. The Stoic solution is not to build thicker skin. It's to stop caring about the skin game entirely. When they praise you, you acknowledge it the way you acknowledge the weather. It is raining today. Okay. And? When they criticize you, you evaluate it according to your principles. Is there truth in it? Is there something to learn? If yes, integrate. If no, discard. But in neither case does their judgment become the foundation of your self-assessment. This is what it means to be sovereign. You do not inflate when they applaud. You do not collapse when they jeer. You remain steady because your sense of worth is generated internally according to standards you chose, not standards they imposed. Marcus again. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Their praise is an opinion. Their criticism is an opinion. Both are their experience filtered through their biases, wounds, and projections. Neither is a verdict on your essence. And when you truly integrate this, when you build this second wall of the citadel, you become free in a way that most people never experience. Free to create without performing. Free to speak without calculating. Free to exist without needing their permission. This is the second gate. Praise and criticism are equal. Both are irrelevant to your worth. The third gate is the most misunderstood of the Stoic practices. It is called negative visualization, and it sounds morbid until you understand its function. The practice is simple. Regularly imagine losing everything you have: your reputation, your relationships, your possessions, your status. Not to torture yourself, not to cultivate fear, but to inoculate yourself against attachment. Because here's what the Stoics understood that most people miss. Your fear of their disapproval is actually fear of loss. Loss of status, loss of belonging, loss of the comfortable identity you've constructed. And as long as you fear that loss, you are not free. You are a hostage to the thing you're afraid to lose. Marcus practiced this daily. He would write, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, I will encounter busybodies, ingrates, egomaniacs, liars, the jealous, and cranks." He wasn't being pessimistic. He was preparing himself. He was visualizing the worst responses, the harshest judgments, the coldest rejections. And in doing so, he was removing their power to shock him, hurt him, or control him. This is the martial art of the mind. You visualize them hating your work. Okay. And then what? You still did the work. You still lived according to your principles. Their hatred is their experience, not your verdict. You visualize them mocking you. Okay. And then what? Are you less true? Are your values less valid? Or is their mockery simply their noise, irrelevant to your path? You visualize total rejection, complete isolation. Okay. And then what? Do you cease to exist? Do you lose your mind? Or do you discover that even in that worst-case scenario, you are still here, still whole, still capable? This practice does something profound. It reveals that the thing you fear most is survivable. And once you know it's survivable, it loses its power to control you. The cold soul is not built by avoiding pain. It's built by facing the worst possible outcome and realizing that even that outcome does not destroy you. You practice indifference not by forcing yourself not to care, but by investigating what happens if the thing you fear actually occurs. They hate you. They reject you. They turn their backs. And you're still breathing, still thinking, still capable of choosing your next action according to your values. This is the third gate, the final fortification. Your worst fear is survivable. Therefore, it is powerless. So what does this actually look like? What changes when you build the Inner Citadel? First, you stop performing. You post the thing without refreshing the page. You say the truth without softening it for their comfort. You create the work that matters to you without calculating whether it will be popular. Not because you're reckless, because you're sovereign. Your standard is internal now. You know what good work is according to your principles, and that's the only evaluation that matters. Second, you stop defending. When they criticize you, you don't scramble to explain yourself. You don't craft the perfect rebuttal. You don't need to win the argument because you're not playing the game of their approval. You evaluate the criticism. If there's wisdom, you integrate it. If there's projection, you discard it. But in neither case do you react from a place of wounded ego. You are the rock. The waves crash. The rock does not argue with the waves. Third, you stop celebrating. Not in the sense that you don't acknowledge success, but you don't derive your sense of worth from their applause. They love your work. Great, that's pleasant. But tomorrow they might hate it, and that will also be irrelevant to your sense of self. You did the thing according to your standard. That's the achievement. Their reception is separate from your competence. Fourth, you become selective. When you stop needing everyone's approval, you stop trying to appeal to everyone. You start creating, speaking, and living for the people who resonate, not the masses who might validate. This is not elitism. This is precision. You are no longer trying to be acceptable to the whole world. You are trying to be excellent according to your values. And that narrow focus produces work, relationships, and a life that is true, not popular. Fifth, you become dangerous. Not in the sense of harmful, dangerous in the sense that you cannot be controlled. The person who needs your approval can be manipulated with praise and criticism. The person who doesn't need your approval cannot be moved. They become the most powerful kind of player in any arena, the one who is not playing for the crowd, the one who is playing according to principles the crowd cannot touch. This is the cold soul manifested. Not cold as in cruel, cold as in unreachable. Unreachable by their flattery, unreachable by their judgment, unreachable by the entire machinery of social control that runs on people's need to be accepted. Marcus wrote in his final years, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quality of their thoughts about you, the quality of your thoughts." And when you build the inner citadel, when you fortify it with the 3 gates, your thoughts become sovereign. You think according to principles you chose. You evaluate according to standards you set. You exist according to values you defined. And their opinion, whether glowing or scathing, is finally, beautifully irrelevant. So here's the question you came here with. How do you become immune to their opinion? And here's the answer you're leaving with. You don't become immune. You become sovereign. Immunity suggests defense. Sovereignty suggests transcendence. You don't build walls to keep their judgment out. You build a citadel so strong that their judgment simply doesn't reach the place where you live. They can say what they want. They can think what they want. They can praise you today and condemn you tomorrow, and none of it touches the core of who you are, because that core is yours, not theirs to define. This is not easy work. You have spent your entire life wiring your nervous system to believe that their approval is oxygen, that their rejection is death. Undoing that wiring requires practice, repetition, and the willingness to feel uncomfortable while you build something new. But here's what you get in exchange: freedom. The freedom to create without performing. The freedom to speak without calculating. The freedom to fail without collapsing. The freedom to succeed without needing validation. The freedom to exist as yourself, not as the version of yourself most likely to be accepted. This is the art of the cold soul. Not unfeeling, not disconnected, not cruel. Unmoved. Unmoved by praise. Unmoved by criticism. Unmoved by the entire theater of social judgment that most people spend their lives navigating. Marcus Aurelius spent his life governing an empire, and every night he returned to his private journals and reminded himself of one simple truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That power is yours, not because you're special, not because you're above others, but because it is the birthright of every human being to govern their own inner state. Most people never claim that birthright. They spend their lives as refugees in the kingdom of other people's opinions, constantly seeking asylum, constantly afraid of exile. You don't have to live that way. You can build the citadel, you can fortify the gates, you can become the rock that the waves crash against, unmoved, unshaken, sovereign. Their opinion is not powerless because they stop having opinions. Their opinion is powerless because you stopped needing it. That's the difference. And that difference is everything.